Alright guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to use the photos you took in the focal length 1 assignment to make something that looks just like this in Adobe Photoshop. So let's get started. Go ahead and open up Photoshop, and we're going to be working in the animation or timeline mode again. So we want to make sure the first thing we do is go to Window, Workspace, and we want to choose Motion to bring up this timeline here at the very bottom of our screen. Alright, we got that up. Now let's go, instead of adding media just straight, let's actually create a canvas first. Let's go to File, New, and we're going to create a very custom sized canvas. First thing we want to do is change this from inches to pixels, and we want to do 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels and change our resolution to 72. And then make sure everything else is on white, and looks like everything else is good. Let's go ahead and just click on Create. 1920 by 1080 is a very common size, especially in the world of video and motion, so that's a good place to start. I've got my crop tool selected, which is why I have this weird box here. If you have that, just switch to your move tool or some other tool and that will go away. Okay, so we are set here. Now we need to come down here to the bottom and click on this Create Video Timeline button, and we'll go ahead and click on that. And it's going to start by adding a white square already. We can't get rid of that just now, but we will definitely get rid of it in a little bit. And now we're going to click on the button that we've used before. Click on this little dude and click on Add Media. And you're going to browse to your folder where you have your photos from the focal length 1 assignment. I've put mine just here on my desktop here in my focal length folder. Yours will be in your folder, in your period folder. But so here they are, all 7 of them. I'm just going to select all 7 and go ahead and click on Open. Alright, I got all my images loaded up. Photoshop was nice enough to put them in order for me, which is very cool. And now we've still got this white box right here. It's this first layer, and now we definitely don't want that. So I'm just going to click on that and press my Delete key on my keyboard. And it is gone. And you can see my images are too big for my canvas. That's okay. That's actually exactly what we wanted to happen. I'm going to start by just clicking on this first one, and since it's too big, you know what we're going to do. We're going to do Control T, and I'm going to have to zoom out to be able to see the edges because I was too zoomed in to be able to see the edges of the box there. And of course, as always, I'm going to hold down Shift and drag from the corner. I'm going to make this skull so it fits inside of my canvas, and don't make it too small. There's a good reason why. I'm going to leave it right about there, and you can see that purple line showed up. Let me zoom back in. You see if I move it, and once I get right to the middle, that purple line will show up and say, hey, you've got it right in the middle. I'm like, oh, thank you. That's awfully kind of you. And I'm going to leave it right there. Plenty big so that it fills up the canvas, but I definitely left enough space. If you shot vertically rather than horizontally, you're going to do this exact same thing, although you'll probably end up with some white bars on the side of your image. That is totally okay. Now, we're going to make this a lot easier on ourselves to resize the rest of these by using a real simple little trick. I want you to go ahead and on your keyboard press Control R. It's going to bring these rulers up along the side of the canvas. Again, that was Control R. And I'm going to click here and drag down from this, and you can see it's letting me bring a line. I'm going to put one line right at the top of the skull. I'm going to click and drag another one from the ruler right here to the teeth. And then I'm going to click and drag another one here to the edge of the skull, and another one to the other edge of the skull. And this is going to be my guide box. This is going to help me resize all my images so that they're the same size. So now I'm going to move my timeline to the next image. I'm going to click on that image to select it, and then I'm going to do Control T again. I'm going to zoom out, and of course always hold down Shift and drag from the corner, and I'm going to start resizing this skull to try to get it to fit within the box. Let's see how I did here. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to let go and use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So that's what I'm doing right now. You can see I've got the width about the same. The height has changed a little bit because that's what happens when you change the perspective of your focal length. I'm going to make this just a tiny bit bigger. And then again, use those arrow keys to move it over. And there you go. So my height changed just a little bit, but I'm going to leave my width right there. So I'll press Enter, and now I'll go to my next one, move my timeline so it's over it. And again, we're just going to keep doing the same thing. You guys Control T, hold down Shift, drag from the corners to get it to fit in there. zoom back in, and again, use those arrow keys to move it around. It's sometimes a little bit easier. Need to make this one just a touch bigger. And there you go. Again, you can tell it's getting just a little bit shorter. It's not as tall as it was in the first image. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and skip to my very last one. Again, you got to move the timeline so that it is also over that image. Control T, and just do the same thing. Remember, if you screw up, if you forgot to hold down Shift, just press Escape and try again. I just wanted you to see how much shorter the skull is in this last image than it was in the first image. There you go. It's gotten quite a bit shorter because the perspective has changed, because the focal length has changed. And there you go. Once you have that done to all of your images, you're ready to move. Okay, so I've got all of my images resized. Not a bad idea to grab my playhead and just kind of scrub it through and see how it looks. And that looks pretty good. I feel like the skull stays in pretty much the same spot. If you do this and you realize one of them's a little bit off, that's okay. Just go back and click on it. And you can either Control T it or just move it around with the Move tool. Whatever works better for you is fine. So let's move on to the next step. And what we need to do is we need to shorten the amount of time that each one of these images plays in our video. Right now they're going to show up for 5 seconds each. That's way too long. So let's make this substantially shorter. To do that, the first thing I want to do is make my timeline much bigger. So I'm going to just click on this little triangle right here and drag this over to the right. That's going to extend those out a lot. And then I'm going to click and bring it back to the very beginning. And let's start with this first one. I'm going to just click on this right edge. You can see the little brackets and everything are pointing to the left. That's what we want. If you've gone too far, that one is pointing to the right. That means I'm actually working on this clip. We don't want that, so I'm going to just click and drag this. And I'm looking for that number that's duration. I'm going to want that to actually bring that down to about 0.6. So you can see we're making this way shorter. And then I'm just going to come to the next one and click on it and do the same thing. Bring this one down to about 0.6. And I'm just going to go through all of these and bring them down to a duration of 0.6. Okay, so I've got all of mine down to my 0.6 duration. I'm going to put my playhead back at the beginning. And we want to see what this is going to look like. So you can actually click on this little gear icon right here. You can click on Loop Playback. And then now if I hit play, my laptop's playing a little slow because I'm trying to record the screen at the same time, but it's going to keep playing over and over. It's not going to stop until you come over here and press stop. And that way you can kind of see how your GIF is looking. So it's looking pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and press stop. And now we have it so that the camera is zooming in, but we also want it to zoom back out. Well, fortunately, this is really easy. So what I'm going to do is we just want to duplicate these 5 middle ones. And that's actually pretty simple. I'm going to come over here to my layers palette. Don't do this one. We don't want to duplicate that one because that's the last one. We don't want that one to appear twice. I'm just going to go to 0339, press a little Control J to duplicate it. Oh, let's actually not do it that way because that actually makes it so that it's too long. Instead, let's click on it and drag it down to this little icon right here, and then when you let go, it's going to duplicate it, but it's also going to match the length, so we don't have to change the duration. And I want to move this up to the very top of my layers palette. Be careful you don't drag it out of the video group like that. That's definitely not what we want. We want it to just be at the very top of the layers palette. Then I'm going to go down, that was 339, so now I'm going to go down to 338. I'm going to duplicate that one, and then drag that up to the very top. Then I'll go down to 337, duplicate that one, drag that one up to the very top, and I'm just going to do that for 336 and 335. Again, you don't want to do it for the very first one and the very last one. And now let's see how it looks if we come in and press play. So you can see it's going to zoom in and then zoom back out. All right, at this point we're pretty much done. If you wanted it to look like it was slowing down a little bit when it got to the end and then speeding up in the middle, you could come in and you could lengthen the amount of time that this very first image shows. and also the amount of time that the middle one shows, which is number 340 for me. I'm going to extend those out a little bit. I want those to show for just a little bit longer, and then I think that will look a little bit cooler. So anyways, we're basically done here. Let's export this as a GIF. We're not going to render video. Instead, we're going to go to File, Export, and we're going to go to Save for Web Legacy. So click on that. This box right here will pop up. Let's come over here. Preset is going to be GIF 128 dithered. The colors is going to be, well, wait for a second. We're going to change that from 128 to 256. Wait for that. Very good. We're going to come down here. We're going to change the image size. This is too big. Let's drop that down to 600. And then we want to change the looping options from once to forever. And if you would like to preview it, you can just hit preview, or you can just trust me that this is a good one. These are good settings, and then go ahead and press save. You're going to save this in your folder somewhere in the photo drive, wherever you exist. I'll go into my folder, and there you should have a folder already called focal length 1. So we'll save it in there. Make sure you give it a name that you can recognize it. Finished, and then go ahead and just hit save. And that's going to create this .gif file for you, and that is the file that you're going to upload and turn in this assignment.